Hey fellow garden gnomes, this is Brittany. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back at home for a few days and I thought I'd do a little tour. Come along with me. And here we're gonna start with my apple tree. There's not a lot of growth there, but that's because right after I left for New Brunswick, a deer got at my fruit trees and munched on them. So considering that, it looks in decent shape. I'm definitely going to put some compost next spring. This is a cherry tree. It was 2 years old, so the apple tree was 1 year old when I planted it, and the cherry tree and the plum tree are 2 years old. So that's a sweet cherry. The variety is called Lapins, and the leaves were a little bit curled, but I asked someone about that and they basically said, well, the leaves would drop in the winter anyway, so next year they should come back just fine. That's my plum tree, looking really nice and healthy. I'm definitely excited to see how those trees do next year. And right now we're just going towards my bee hut. This attracts mason bees and leafcutter bees, which are good pollinators for the garden. My garden can clearly use some TLC. There, my pumpkin and zucchini vines have climbed up my tomato cages and taken over. There's a pumpkin slowly turning orange. And there, my broccoli plants have gotten so big that they've fallen over. You can see they flowered. All those yellow flowers really attract bees. There's some nice pumpkins. The next day, actually from when this was filmed, was Thanksgiving and my family was over. My cousin's daughter, 4-year-old daughter, had some fun picking a pumpkin for a jack-o'-lantern. So in this garden, I had a strawberry patch, and unfortunately it just got completely overrun by all the other perennials in the garden. So whether or not I replant my strawberries, I'm not sure. There is a grapevine. Clearly the netting isn't doing too great, but the grapevine looks okay. So I definitely need to amend the soil here. I think that garden hasn't gotten a lot of attention. Here's the corner of my garden. Those are all sweet potato vines mostly. I just threw in a sweet potato plant there. Got some marigolds. And right here is a ground cherry plant, which was very surprising because I haven't planted ground cherries in this garden for 3 years. So I think what must have happened is fruit would have dropped, it would have decomposed, and there would have been seeds in the soil, and then probably in the turning of the soil the last couple of years, the seeds had somehow ended up at a correct depth to be able to germinate this year. There, my zucchini and pumpkin plants are giving off lots of male flowers even into October. It was male because it's skinny to the flower, but here I think I found a young female flower. It's a bud, but you can see a little nodule right by the bud, and that's a female flower. There's nasturtium, which get huge, rip when I was ripping a bunch of the plants out. Ripping these ones out was a good job. You can see how big the leaf is there. And there's my parsley, and that's I believe a parsnip plant. There's some anise hyssop, that purple flower there, and some marigolds. And my basil. I love basil. I love basil pesto. It's really yummy. There is a tomato, my blue beauty. Unfortunately, the leaves or the plant has been affected by blight, so it's not in good shape. And that tomato plant is pretty much dead, but has a few tomatoes still hanging on. There's a close-up of my nice little pumpkins. I'm super excited to grow pumpkins again, although I will be growing them in a different place next year so that they don't completely take over all my other plants. Oh, that's a little bit... Let's see, there's zinnias. And... I think I'm gonna put this on a tripod soon. There I pulled back my lovage and found a single green onion had survived out of the row of green onions I'd planted there. And let's see. So I put it on a tripod here so that I could harvest a few things. So here is a red onion. Again, a single red onion out of the entire line of red onions that I'd planted. Definitely next year I'm going to pay a little more attention to how quickly or to how closely I plant things. That was lovage that I cut back, by the way. And here I'm taking off my red tomatoes. They're not completely red, but as long as they have some red on them, I can put them on the windowsill and they'll ripen the rest of the way. So they're really hefty though. They were really nice tomatoes. I haven't had the greatest luck in past years with tomatoes, so I was very excited to get tons of great tomatoes. And that one again has the smallest bit of red, so that's totally fine. And I believe after I brushed this one off, I noticed that it had been bitten into, so I just threw it away. That'll be a nice little treat for the critters. And here are some Chinese 5-color peppers. That second one there, was also bitten into, so I just threw it away. That one was kind of funny because that plant was really hidden away by other plants, and so my parents didn't even know that was there. It wasn't until I pushed back some of the plants that I found it. So now I'm just going to cut back some of the anise hyssop, which is the plant with the purple flowers, which are great for attracting pollinators. So I like having it as sort of a companion plant in the garden, but definitely when it gets really large, it can make it difficult to harvest everything. So I've just sped this up a little bit. These are my parsnips. I'm also cutting back some of the nasturtiums just so that I can get at the parsnips. But it was decent. I was able to have enough parsnips to go with some other root vegetables for Thanksgiving side. So I think I'm only showing a few though, because otherwise it would have been a lot of footage. So there I'm pulling up some rutabaga. There really was only one decent rutabaga, and that's the one that's in my hand that you can actually see. And even that was pretty pathetic, really. But again, with the pumpkins and zucchinis taking over, unfortunately they strangled a lot of the other plants. So those are my purple potted beans, which were pretty cool, and my parents tell me were really tasty, so definitely going to be planting them again. There's some really long beans. I tried to leave some on the vine to be able to save seed from, but unfortunately just wasn't able to. There's a corn, which unfortunately rotted, but it was still neat to sort of see a little small thing there. Is red corn, and so here's actually a bigger piece so you'll be able to see closer up. So again, it didn't get that big because I think the plant just died really quickly. And I'm not sure if it was because of animals or disease or whatever, but so yeah, it was a red flower corn from Baker Creek Seeds. So I'm definitely going to try that again next year. A big part of why my corn didn't succeed, I think, is because we got a heck of a lot of rain early in the season, and so everybody's corn in the area was pretty stunted. So there's a cabbage, pretty kind of raggedy looking. Definitely next year I'm going to put my cabbage and my other brassicas under some kind of cover to keep it from getting eaten. And this is some tomato vines that climbed up the trellis. My blue beauty, which, oh man, they are beauties. I love that rich purple color. I think that's gorgeous. And those are my Weissabahart cherry tomatoes, which I'm not sure if maybe I didn't leave them long enough, but I just, when I ate them, they had a very thick skin, which I don't really like in a cherry tomato. But I'll give it a second year. I think I'll grow them again next year and see if I like them better. Some more of my beans. They were really tasty, and it was funny, my cousin's little girl, after she picked the pumpkin, would go over and munch on my beans, and she would come back to us munching on beans, and then we'd turn around and she was going back getting more beans. That's my Swiss chard, which is gorgeous. It was really good. Like, I picked Swiss chard and my beet greens, which I think is later in this video, and I made another side dish for Thanksgiving from that, where I believe I used wine. I think I used wine and some other stuff, definitely, to make some sauteed greens. Those are jalapeno peppers. We actually got so many jalapeno peppers from my garden. So my freezer is currently filled with bags of frozen tomatoes and frozen jalapeno peppers. This is the mess of pearly pink tomatoes, which were really good. I mean, they're not incredibly flavorful, but if you like a low acid, mild flavor, they're really nice, and I feel like they would have been good to make paste with, because they were very meaty and had sort of a limited amount of that, gel seed interior that most tomatoes have. So I rinsed off my parsnips, and that's what I got, along with the tomatoes. And here are my pearly pink tomatoes that I've got so far. I think I ended up thinking I was filming, and I wasn't, but here I'm continuing to look along the mass of tomato plants to find any more that have changed color. Broccoli, I tried to stay away from the broccoli flowers because of all the bees that were there. As I was going along, I was munching on the occasional pearly pink tomato because they're a nice little snack. There's a couple in there. A little tricky to get to sometimes, but okay, and that's my final haul. Of course not including the ones I munched on the way. And these are carrots. They were all pretty small, but again, they would have been shaded out by, the zucchini and pumpkin vines, but I still got a decent amount to go with my parsnips and beets, which I think are the next. Yep, there's my beets. So I had basically like a mixed root vegetable side for Thanksgiving. And those lovely beet greens, of course, went with the Swiss chard. That was a beautiful first beet. I believe there was one other decent sized one, and then the others were all pretty teeny tiny. So I ended up filling up my memory card and was unable to continue filming, but basically you got the gist of kind of everything that I ended up harvesting. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please hit that subscribe button. And until next time, stay wildly green.